Okay, so let's get started. Welcome to the Yoga Teacher Collaborative and our weekly free trainings for yoga teachers wherever you are in your yoga teaching career. This week, we are focusing on 10 essential tips for brand new yoga teachers, but also good reminders for teachers who have already got started. Next week, we are doing a guest session with a writing educator on how to write better for your yoga business so that you're not having to rely on the new trend of AI and ChatGPT, etc. So today, instead, we're going to be covering the essential tips for brand new teachers. Now, I have been teaching yoga for about 13 and a half years, and I have been teaching teachers running a 200-hour training. I think it's about 5 years now, 5-6 years. So I have guided many a person from yoga student to yoga teacher training to brand new yoga teacher. So trust me, I do know what works, both in your business and in your teaching skills, and where it is best to focus right now and what pitfalls it's easy to fall into. I have taken some notes because I can waffle, so the notes will keep me on point. We are going to begin with the 5 business tips, and then we will move into the 5 teaching tips. But take notes, write things in the comments. Let's get this feeling interactive so it's not just me talking to a screen in my office at home. So the first tip that I give my trainee teachers and teachers that I mentor that are starting out is begin with a beginner's course. Why? Because 2 reasons. Firstly, when you start with a course, it gives you a set start date. So that might be at least 6 weeks out. It might be longer. It might be 8 weeks, somewhere between that, 6 and 8 weeks. Pick a date to start a beginner's course, ideally in person. And now you have this fixed date that you market your course to. You know it's starting, and mine started on the 19th of April, 2010. I can remember that date like it's burned into my skin. But whatever your date is, you focus on marketing to that date. And then once that date comes around, you know exactly how many students to expect at that class, which gives you comfort that you're covering your hall hire, etc. And then marketing can go on pause. And then for the next 6 weeks of your beginner's course, or however long the course is, you're not having to worry about marketing. And instead, you can focus your time on planning and teaching the yoga. As you get more proficient later down the line, you'll be able to juggle these 2 things together. You'll be able to be marketing your classes, lesson planning, and delivering your classes all at the same time. But if you're new, give yourself a break. Do one and then the other. Market for a start date of a course and press pause on the marketing. Move your intention to lesson planning, delivering classes, and interacting with your students. So that's one main reason. The other reason that I suggest you start with a beginner's course is it's highly likely as a new teacher that you'll be getting beginners anyway. Because let's think about it. If somebody is not a beginner to yoga, then they're either already going to another yoga teacher, they've already got a developed home practice, or they've already got another way that they're doing their yoga. Yes, you'll pick up a few experienced students as you go, you people that have moved to the area, people who've changed jobs and can't go to their original class. Of course, you'll pick up a few experienced students. But when you set up a new class, the majority of people that come are going to be new to you and new to yoga. So new people often feel a little bit daunted about starting yoga. Why? Because none of us ever want to look like a fool. We don't want to be the only beginner in a room of experienced students. So people feel more comfortable joining a beginner's course. Sometimes I think they actually learn quicker in a mixed level, but that's a different point. I think people feel more comfortable as a beginner, knowing they're going to be joining a beginner's course. So that is my top tip number one, is start with a beginner's course, focus your marketing on beginners, market to a start date. And then once the course is started, move your attention to teaching. Then my next essential tip, focus on having one class. Fill up one class before adding something else. And I do see lots of teachers make this mistake, that they'll set up 2 or 3 classes, or, you know, they might find a new hall that hasn't got many yoga classes in it and they get overexcited and, you know, take back-to-back slots. We worry about missing prime slots, etc. But it's just spreading yourself thin. If you've got multiple classes in different areas, that's extra marketing you've got to do, sending flyers in one town, then in another, posters up in one town, posting on one village Facebook group, then another village Facebook group. Just focus all of your attention on one class. Then when that class is full, or, you know, it's consistently about 70 to 80% full, then consider adding your second class. And I think it comes to a confidence thing. I hear a lot of teachers say, I only teach one class, as if somehow that is lesser. Don't get drawn into that stuff. Focus your energy and passion on one amazing class, fill it up, and then add another. And this is going to stop you burning out. The best way to build a sustainable business is slowly. So don't rush, my loves. Don't be pulled into that fear mindset. Take your time, beginner's course, fill it up. Then at the end, if you did do a beginner's course, I should have said this before, I like to then do a beginner's part 2 straight afterwards. And then after I find people have done a 6-week beginner's part 1, they've done a 6-week beginner's part 2, by that point, they're pretty hooked on their yoga. So you could turn that just into a general class and then move to another venue and start with a new beginner's course in a new village, new venue, new time slot, and build like that. Beginner's course, beginner's part 2, open and move on. Research. But why are you researching? Many of you have heard me talk about research before. You're researching the yoga in your local area, not in an attempt to fit in with it, but to notice who and what is not being served, and then to set up classes that fill that gap. So if in your research you notice that there's loads of midweek yoga, 7 p.m, more kind of dynamic vinyasa styles, but maybe there's nothing in the morning, maybe there's nothing in the day, maybe there's no accessible yoga, chair yoga, gentle yoga, maybe there's no meditation, maybe there's no spirituality, philosophy. Notice what isn't being delivered, especially if there's more saturation in your area, and go for that. So we don't research to fit in. We research to notice who is not being served and realize how we can market to that demographic. So we're not competing with one another. Yoga is not saturated. It is not saturated. I'm going to say it again. It's not. There's certain demographics that are, and there's certain styles and approaches of yoga that are in abundance. But there's lots of people in every single community that don't have yoga classes that feel accessible to them. So get clever, do some research, work out who is not getting their yoga. Next point, coming on to point 4. Point 1, beginner's course. Point 2, focus on one thing, fill it up before adding another. Point 3, research for how to stand out, not fit in. Point 4, use your existing networks, or if you don't have an existing network, use existing communities. So what do I mean by this? If you have an existing network in the area you live, friends, school friends, work colleagues, other hobbies, like if you belong to a running club, you're an avid supporter of a particular local restaurant or charity, tap into those networks. These people already know you. They already like you. They already trust you. They're going to be naturally more inclined to start yoga with you and help you. So reach out to your network. Say, you know, I'm starting this beginner's yoga course. I think it would be great for you. These are the following reasons. I'm starting this beginner's yoga course. I know yoga's not for you, but do you have any friends you'd share my information with? Could you post it on Facebook for me? Could you put up a poster in your workplace? Could you drop off some posters in, you know, if you walk the dog, could you put a few of the flyers through your local housing estate for me? Use your networks. People like to help small businesses. People help passion projects. So use that. Give your friends and family a free yoga class to say thank you for their help. You get them to drop some flyers, get them to put up some posters, get them to share it on Facebook, get them to always reply to your Facebook posts. Use your network. Now, if you don't already have an existing network, I didn't particularly when I set my classes, tap into other existing communities. So what other communities exist in your local area? Most areas have things like a running club. Most areas have a WI group. Most areas have a film society. Tap into these different groups and see if there's a way that you can get in front of them. So for instance, let's take that film group, because that might sound like the most out there suggestion, but you know, there are some great videos, films on spirituality, on India, on culture, on yoga, you know, even just Eat, Pray, Love, for instance. So maybe you could reach out to a film society, suggest a movie, and that they do say, let's take it really easy. You suggest the film club watch Eat, Pray, Love, and then before the end of it, you would love to share a 15-minute meditation. Tap into existing communities, share a taster, then invite them to a free class with you. Think outside the box. Point number 5. I think I might have 7 when it comes to the business. Communicate. Collect email addresses. Communication is absolutely essential. Group communication with your students and one-to-one communication. If someone has come for a free class, get their email address within 24 hours, send them thank you for coming, and invite them to book again. If you meet someone at that film society, have an email sign-up list, a tick box that they enroll, you know, sign up for your email newsletter so it's GDPR compliant, and then send emails. It was lovely to meet you at the running club. It was lovely to meet you at the WI. It was lovely to bump into you today. I would love to invite you to a free yoga class. Click here to book it. Communication is so key. And if you are not collecting email addresses or phone numbers, you cannot communicate one-to-one with someone. Please do not rely on social media for communicating with people. Even if somebody follows your Facebook page, they follow you on Instagram, there's a lot that stands in the way from them seeing every single thing you post. So you cannot guarantee that people will see your stuff on social media. It's much more likely that you can guarantee they won't see it. So collect email addresses and phone numbers for one-to-one communication. Second, 6th point, it's okay to invest. Okay? And I hear this all the time. New teachers not wanting to invest in a booking system, new teachers not wanting to invest in hall hire and opting to teach online classes instead. This is getting in your way. You have to invest time and money when you are establishing a new business. Imagine if a new restaurant set up, but they didn't want to invest in a website. They didn't want to invest in a chef. They didn't want to invest in crockery. They didn't want to invest in a cooker. They didn't want to invest in ingredients. They would have no restaurant. if you want a business, you have to invest. Now, we're very lucky that the investments in yoga are small, and sometimes people invest in the wrong things. So I notice a new teacher will gladly invest in props. They'll go out and do a bulk buy of yoga mats, of blocks, of straps, but then they won't invest in the booking system. Invest in the booking system and get your students to get their own props. Make your money work for you. Now, why do I think you should invest in a booking system? I ran my business without a booking system for a decade. I only moved over with COVID, but really they're worth every penny, because when somebody has the impetus, the idea to book your yoga class, you want to capitalize on that immediately. When someone books and pays, they are much more likely to turn up, rather than just thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to drop in to that yoga class. I can pay on the day. Then the day comes, it's raining, Wimbledon's on, they've got a headache, they'd rather have a million other things, so they don't come. As soon as someone has paid, they have made a commitment. They are much more likely to show up. So I think book when, I can't remember, but it's something like £9, I think, plus VAT, for its most basic offering per month. Then they will take the payment through Stripe, and there is a small percentage that Stripe take of that payment. It is worth every penny. And then don't waste your time and money investing in other things like getting all the props for your students. Work with what you've got. You know, have maybe 2 or 3 spare mats in the boot of your car that you can give to people if it's essential, but that you encourage them to get their own yoga mat. So investing in full hire, investing in a booking system, and investing in the stuff you don't yet know. So if you don't know how to do something, invest either your time or your money in working out how to do it. Get a website. Don't know how to do it? There's free templates you can start with. You know, you can Google, YouTube search everything. Don't know anything about business? Get a mentor. That's what I'm here for. But invest in your business. Okay, let's move on to, no, I'm going to circle back to investing time in full hire. If you haven't gone for the beginner's course route, it's going to take a few weeks for you to build up a class. You know, it could even take you 6 months. So you might not be covering your full hire straight away. Know that that is okay. It is part of the process of growing. So if on your first week you have 1 student and you're not covering the whole hire, please don't worry. We have all been in that situation. I have been in that situation many a time. Teach that student the best damn class you know how. Then next week it might be 2. Next month it might be 3. Then it might be 5. In the first year, you might be averaging 7 students. Year 2, you might be averaging 10 to 12. Year 3, you might be averaging 15 students, but you have to give it time. And that means you have to be willing to accept some weeks when you don't cover your full hire. Again, we're lucky that full hire isn't that expensive in comparison to the costs of running many other businesses. You invested in your yoga teacher training. Invest now your time in setting up your classes. Give it time. Okay, then let's move on. Shake that out to top tips for a brand new teacher in the teaching side. Okay, so I'm going to focus on the things that can make a difference for you straight away. First off, trust yoga. It doesn't matter if you don't feel confident. Okay, it doesn't matter if you don't feel confident. That isn't imposter syndrome. It is just a lack of confidence. How do we get confident? By doing something more often. If you felt really confident in something you'd never done, that would be a bit weird. Not feeling confident in something you're just beginning, you're just learning how to do, It is normal. So whilst you are building your trust and confidence in you, trust yoga. Trust yoga. It doesn't matter if your lesson doesn't come out quite right, you forget to do something on one side, you get your lefts and your rights confused, or even you fall over yourself in triangle and land on your bum. It doesn't matter. Yoga is so damn good that if you have held space for people to connect to their breath, be on their yoga mat, have an hour away from their phone, for instance, that's amazing. They're going to get benefit from that. So trust yoga works. Later, when listening to feedback from your students, you'll get to trust in you as a teacher. Please don't worry if you're not feeling confident. Confidence comes from practice and listening to the feedback from your students. You know, notice how your students look when they come in and how they look when they go out. See what's changed. Really take that on board. So trust in yoga. Next thing, when it comes to planning your lessons, keep it simple. Okay. Rough rule of thumb, a 30-minute personal practice is about an hour's class when it comes to teaching beginners. So a flow that you can take in 30 minutes will take you about 1 hour to teach beginners. So it's much fewer poses than you think. Repetition is absolutely key. You know, say you're teaching a beginner Warrior Two for the first time. You can teach them Warrior Two, focusing just on where their feet go. Then you can come out, do a little bit of cat-cow, then you can come back into Warrior Two again, and this time focusing on the position of the arms. You can come out, do another pose, come back into Warrior Two, and focus on the feeling of the breath. So you can repeat poses, keep it simple, and don't overcomplicate it. Remember, it is not your own practice. This is something, a trap I see new teachers fall into all the time. They roll out their mat at home to plan their class. Then you put some nice music on, you get flowing, you get moving, you find these nice creative transitions that feel good. And then you get to teach that in class and it's too complicated. It's too flowing. The students need to have some more basics to begin with. So it's not your practice. What you like right now in your own practice would look quite different to what you might be teaching beginners. Slow it down, keep it simple, use repetition. About 30 minutes of your personal speed is a 1 hour class. Now, a lot of beginning teachers invest a lot of time in lesson planning. I am an advocate for lesson planning. But if you're finding it's taking up a huge amount of your time and becoming stressful, move to planning just one lesson per month and then sticking with that lesson for 4 weeks. I have done this quite a few times after first hearing it described by Jason Crandell, who was talking about, imagine being a musician and every time you went for a music lesson, being given a new piece of music to learn. That really stuck with me. So especially if you're teaching, people newer to yoga, every week mixing it up, they're not getting that sense of familiarity. And what you can do is have one lesson plan for the month, and within that, each week have a slightly different focus. So you've got this one solid lesson plan, and make it solid, have some twists in there, have a little core in there, have some back bends, have some pranayama, have a little bit of meditation, make it a really cohesive practice, have a balance in there, a couple of warriors, really nice full practice. And then the first week you teach it, maybe you're just focusing on the position of the feet in the poses, because we know if the feet are off for someone, it's going to affect their balance, how they feel in their posture. Steadiness and ease comes from getting grounded in the foundation. So week 1, you're just focusing on the feet. Maybe week 2, you're taking just a few of the poses in there and really starting to workshop some of the alignment in there. Then maybe week 3, you're less focusing on alignment and getting your students to really feel into their breath, really be mindful of their breath in the poses. Or if, like me, you've got that more fluid style, breathing in and out in rhythm with the movement. And then week 4, enjoy putting it all together and flowing through that class and seeing how their understanding of poses and sequences has evolved over the 4 weeks. So that's a great tip for a new teacher if you're feeling overwhelmed with planning. Focus on getting one great lesson plan. You know, if you use music, one good playlist for it. You know, if you're using a theme, one good theme, and then stick with it for a month and let it blossom, let it get more depth, more nuanced in it. So we've done trust yoga, listen to feedback, keep it simple, lesson plan for one plan for a month. Last 2 tips here. Learn your students' names. This probably is my number 1 tip overall. Learn your students' names. And again, it's really easy to say, I'm not good at names. Get good at names. I know that sounds really harsh, but when you notice you're not naturally good at something, that's not an excuse to not get better at it. It's good to notice the things that don't come naturally to us, but we're all capable of evolving. So if you're not good at learning names, find a technique that will help you. So for instance, for me, I always take a register of who's in my class and I take it during Shavasana. So when I've spoken my students into a guided Shavasana and left them relaxing, I then get a diary. The diary is one of those 1 page per day diaries. And then I go to that date. If it's the 14th of July, I'm going to take my register for today's class, 14th of July, in that diary. And I go around the room when everyone's in Shavasana. And in my head, I look at you and I think, John. And as I write down John, in my head, I say, thank you, John. Elizabeth, thank you, Elizabeth. So I am connecting my brain with that person, writing their name down. And also I'm saying, thank you. Thank you to coming to class. And that really cements their name. And then if I get to someone, I'm like, oh my God, I don't know their name. I will either at the end of that class, go up to them and say, thank you so much for coming to class today. I'm so sorry. I had a complete mental block on your name. I know that's so rude. I'm so sorry. Can you just let me know your name again? Just ask. Make a point of remembering names. Then last couple, be audible, smile, and make eye contact. If anyone here has done teacher training to me, that is the stuff we nag in from month 1. My teacher training had to teach my students every month. Be audible. It doesn't matter how good your classes are if you're not audible. And not being audible is actually very stressful for someone's nervous system, because the whole time we're having to really lean in to listen, our nervous system is actually thinking, what am I missing? What am I missing? What am I missing? It's bringing it into a state of heightened alertness, which is the opposite to what we want. So be audible. Where does that come from? Breath control and posture. So as your students are breathing, you breathe deep, full yogic breaths, diaphragmatic breaths. If you don't have time to take deep breaths, you're teaching too fast. Your class pace is too fast. Use your breath as a guide. Breathe well. Your Ujjayi breath, your full yogic breath. Stand in a good, strong posture. If you're in a pose where your head is turned away from the students like a forward fold, change the angle of that pose. Stand up, demo it, and then have them in the pose. Be audible. Smile. Especially, I notice when people feel nervous that they stop smiling. As soon as you stop smiling, it actually deadens the tone of your voice. I've done a lot of music training, singing training. When you smile, it lifts up these little cheekbone muscles here, and it lifts up the tone of your voice. That naturally is going to make it more audible. And when you smile, other people smile back at you. It is a nervous system reaction. It is co-regulation. When we smile, we're making connections with people. We feel good. Sometimes I have been so nervous teaching that when I smile, I can feel my cheek muscles quiver. I get it. I understand. I've been where you've been. Smile. quivering cheek muscles and all. Make eye contact. When I was a new teacher, I used to really struggle with, if I was looking around my students in a class, if they caught my eye, it would feel really oddly voyeuristic. Yes, I'll recap like bullet points in a second. It used to feel oddly voyeuristic for me if I caught someone's eye. I had to get over that. So now if I catch someone's eye, I smile. They know I'm keeping an eye on them. They know I care. If I smile, they know there's no judgment in my gaze. To be audible, smile, make eye contact. There's no rush when it comes to you growing as a teacher. We started there. And please don't compare yourself as a new teacher to teachers that have been teaching for a long time. It is a journey of evolution. So yes, a request to recap. Let's recap from the very beginning. Point 1, start with beginners courses. Follow on with beginners part 2. Then if you have a consistent group, open it to a drop-in. Fill up one class or course in person. Online, so much harder to fill. Then move on. If you move on, start a second beginners course in a second area. Research what yoga times, classes, styles are being offered in your area so that you can work out who is not being served, set up classes to serve those who aren't already being served. Use your existing networks. Ask your people to fly a drop for you. Share your stuff on Facebook. If you don't have an existing network, tap into existing communities, runners groups, WI groups, for instance. Collect email addresses and communicate one-to-one. Do not rely on social media. Invest in your business, whether that's your whole hire, a business system, business courses to learn what you don't learn, or a mentor. Invest time and money in building your business. You invested in your training, now invest in your business. If you don't know something, Google it or ask. Teaching points: trust yoga whilst your confidence is building. If lesson planning is becoming too stressful, too much to do, too much overwhelm, focus on lesson planning one class for the month and then evolve that class each week by focusing on something different within that pre-existing lesson plan. Keep it simple. 30 minutes of your flow is roughly a 1-hour class. Don't overcomplicate. Repetition's fine. It is essential to learn students' names. If it's hard, I get you, but try. Find a technique that works. Be audible, smile, make eye contact, and enjoy. Let's leave that there at enjoy. So thank you so very, very much for joining me today. Let me know in your comments if that resonated, if that was helpful. Why do I ask you to do that? Some people think asking to reply in comments gives a video more visibility. Clearly it does. But actually, why? Because I love spending half an hour with you every Friday. And I do this to help you from the love of my own heart. So it makes me feel good when I know it's been good for you. Otherwise, I'm just talking to a computer screen in my office. So let's interact. It really makes these rewarding for me. So I would love that. And then I will see you next week for a special guest session with a writing educator. This came out of a little strop I had in here yesterday about people using artificial intelligence such as ChatGPT for writing social media posts, etc. I noticed a lot of you said if you had been using these, it was because it made your writing better. So again, just like I said, if you're not great at something, that's okay. Then we know how we learn to get better. So we're going to learn. We've got a writing educator coming in next Friday, 10:30. It will be recorded. Have a lovely weekend. Bye for now, darlings.